So, one thing you all experienced at MIT Sloan is the beauty of diversity. So many people with different backgrounds, from different nationalities, personalities come together, learn from each other, and grow together. We all learn to embrace these opportunities of connecting with each other, and also to widen our horizons, sometimes beyond our comfort zones. So this fellow Sloanie obviously wants to change the hiring world for the better and give people a chance who have the skills but lack the right networks to connect to good jobs. And she does it relying on data and predictive skill analytics. A warm welcome to Yscaira Jimenez, MBA class of 2014, celebrating her 5th reunion today. Welcome, Yscaira.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you. I know we're almost at the end. I just want to do a quick check. 2014, are you in the house? My Latinx, ¿están en la casa? Woo! Okay. So I'm going to start by telling you a tale of two immigrants. When I got to Sloan, I heard somewhere that MIT was founded for the children of immigrant, working, and middle-class parents. And so I'm glad I ended up here, and that's why I'm going to tell you this story. So one immigrant, his name was Jorge. He came to this country when he was 17. He was an honor student. He was about to finish high school. He had 3 months left, and that's when his visa came. So he got to the States. His mom enrolled him in the local public high school, and he was left back to the 9th grade. It was an error that took more than 2 years to correct, and by then, Jorge was 19. So he dropped out before he got his degree and entered the workforce. He struggled without finding a good job because he didn't have a degree, and he also didn't have a very strong network. Another person, another immigrant, came here when she was 4. And she went through the public school system from the very beginning, was able to go to very good universities like Columbia, and found herself then looking at her community and saying, what can I do for my community? So she went and worked in education, was part of a company, and built basically a program that served 10,000 low-income students to help them do well in school and hopefully go to college. And she had a couple of realizations while she did that. The first was that the smartest students sometimes weren't going to graduate or weren't going to go to college. Or even if they went to college, weren't going to graduate college, and even if they did, still weren't going to get a good job. And it had nothing to do with their ability. She also realized that as a manager of a rapidly growing startup, she was struggling to build a team that reflected her customer base. By the time she left, she had built a team to 300, and she was the most successful director at her company. Not only revenue-wise, she served 10,000 students, had the highest academic gains, and she did it because she knew how to go and hire. She decided she couldn't find the talent she was looking for on LinkedIn or on Indeed. And she decided to go back to her community, to the immigrants that she knew that could do the job. People wouldn't look at parents and think about hiring them, but if it's their students whose future you have in your hands, they're probably the best people that you can hire. And so these two immigrants, if you haven't guessed already, I'm one of them. My name is Yscaira, and the other one is my oldest brother, George. And that brings me to my moment of obligation. My brother, like myself, we were given a chance at the American dream. But because of what happened to him, he fell through the cracks. So the education system failed him. He went into the employment system, also failed, ended up getting arrested for a nonviolent crime and getting deported. So immigration, all of these systems in this country, and I grew up watching that. I went to Columbia. I was very lucky to come to MIT. But I took this picture with my brother a year and a half before starting at MIT, so before I had applied. And I realized that, I can start 10,000 tutoring programs all across the world, but there were other systems that even if I was sending people like my brother into the workforce, weren't ready to receive my brother. And I didn't have the language at the time that what I needed to do was systems change, but I knew I needed to do something. So I looked at business schools and I figured out, okay, where are people getting shit done? So I also took that class with Miles. And when I was going around business schools, I was like, what percentage of graduates are starting business at graduation? That was like my one question. And MIT had the highest percentage. I was like, all right, here's where I want to go. And so I got here to MIT and realized, you know, my brother's not alone. 2/3 of our workforce here in the US does not have a 4-year degree. So the majority of people, when you're walking around every day, don't have a college degree. But most of us, either by design or by legacy or for whatever, when we're building teams, for whatever reason, most of our job descriptions say bachelor's degree required, whether you really need one or not. And we over-rely on our personal and professional networks. We all want to hire our friends because we love them, we know they're smart, we know they're hardworking, but those two proxies are really flawed on ability. And you don't have to trust me, you can look at all the research that says so. And so we're now slowly seeing companies like Google and Apple dropping 4-year degree requirements. But 7 years ago, this was 8 years ago. So 7 years ago, I started Sloan, and people weren't talking about that yet. You know, Google had just published their first diversity report, and it showed that it was 1% Black and 3% Hispanic. And if you fast forward to now, those numbers haven't budged tremendously. So I'm really, really heartened to see that they've dropped the 4-year degree requirement. But anyway, I came to Sloan, I joined the E&I track, I went to the Get Shit Done class, I learned about system dynamics, and I graduated, so I started building my company here, had a pivot when I graduated, and started building LaborX. We call LaborX the LinkedIn for the linked out. And what it set out to do is to help connect hiring managers all around the world to skilled, qualified talent that you might be overlooking because they're disconnected, because they don't have the degrees or they don't have the networks. So that was my moment of obligation. It was a labor of love to my brother, to my community, and this is one of the countries that I rep for. I was born in the Dominican Republic. I am also an American citizen, so it was also a labor of love for this country. And so now I want to put it on to you to think about what your moment of obligation is. And you may not figure that out now, you might have figured it out already, but while you do that, what does it look like for you to go back to your company? And when you're ready to hire someone, when you're thinking about growing a team, think about waiving a 4-year degree requirement. Think about sourcing outside of your professional and personal networks and sourcing non-traditional, talent from places from non-traditional spaces like vocational, boot camp, community colleges, some of these state schools that might not be the first place where you go to source. And then the third thing is, and when you're ready to do that, you can come and call me, shameless plug. But the third thing is, so now you've thought about how to open up and be more inclusive and equitable in the way you bring people into your organization. When you're about to do an interview and when you're about to think about making a job offer, think about hiring for competency and not all of these social proofs and markers that, you think help validate ability. And lastly, hire for value fit. We all think about cultures and we invest a lot in cultures, but cultures stand to be transformed. And so think about how the people that you're bringing in can do that. So thank you. I don't want to stand between you and the rest of the program. I'll see you later.
Thank you, Yscaira. So the next Team Talk brings us back to the beauty of MIT Sloan. These two Sloanies decided to extend their time at MIT. We might be jealous about it. Melissa Webster, MBA, class of 2009, and Eric Wogan, Amber class of 2018, speak a Sloanie shorthand, and that you're about to enjoy. So you will get some working materials now because it's a bit of interactive session, and I give the stage and a warm welcome to Melissa and Eric.